I'm Don Ennis. Thanks very much for joining me here on YouTube for my very first video. So what are we going to talk about? I'm going to talk about me first because I haven't yet received questions and I'm looking forward to getting some. I want you to email me at the address right here, donennis@gmail.com, so that I can hopefully educate you, entertain you, explain myself to you, or talk to you about things that are happening in the news, and there certainly has been a lot happening in the news. If you're watching this tonight, Wednesday, June 15th, 2016, then you know it's just a few days ago that 49 people, most of them LGBT, most of them gay, an overwhelming number of them Latino and Latinas, were slaughtered. They were cut down by a crazed gunman, hell-bent on terrorism. It comes one night after a young woman was cut down in the same city, Orlando, Florida, by another crazed gunman. And then tonight we reported at a website that I work for, Advocate.com, that the 14th transgender woman, 14th transgender person of 2016 was murdered this month. 14 people were transgender murdered. So it's been a hard week. A lot of sad news to go through, and we're still going through it. I'm not here to talk about that tonight, though. So let me tell you a little bit about me to start this enterprise off with. I'm 52 years old. I'm a transgender woman. I identified as a male for most of my 48 years, 47 maybe, and I started to realize that that thing that I felt all my life since I was 5 years old had a name. That I wasn't a guy who just felt very sensitive or very feminine or wished that I had the opportunity to have been born a woman. I'm a woman of a different sort. I'm not a woman who was born and raised female, although at another chapter we'll probably talk about the part of my life in which I did live as a female before now. But I am the kind of woman who has every right to be in women's spaces, and I take that privilege with serious responsibility. I'm fortunate enough that, except for my voice, I most always pass. And passing is something that is very controversial. To me it means security. To me it means safety. To me it means, for the most part, people accept me for what I present as a woman. You don't have to pass to be transgender. You don't have to be someone who has natural hair. This is my hair. I paid for it. The bottom line is, there's a lot of controversy in our country, even before what's happened in Orlando. Controversy over who is trans. Controversy over what is trans. The controversy over whether trans people want special rights. There are three answers to these questions. Trans men are men. Trans women are women. Trans people are people. What is trans? I'll tell you what it's not. It's not cross-dressing. It's not pretend or dress up. It's taking what is occurring inside our minds, our perceptions, our feelings, our gender identity, and having our bodies and our appearances and our presentations match what we see in our mind's eye. The very first time in 2008 that I put on the very first wig I ever bought, I looked in a mirror, I'm gonna cry, and I saw my sister staring back at me. And I realized we look a lot more alike than I ever thought. And she probably doesn't agree, but that's okay. But I saw the woman that I could have been, should have been. I felt self-esteem the more I was able to present as my true self. I've had people tell me, you know, you're a pretty okay-looking guy, but you're a great-looking woman. Well, that's very complimentary and it's very nice. I know that my late beloved wife loved the way I looked before and hated the way I look now. Because, as she put it, I was the bitch who killed her husband. I don't want to get too much into that, but I do want you to know that I live every day trying to be half the woman that the love of my life was. She wasn't perfect. She was a great mom. She was a good wife. And she was the person who loved me more than anyone else on earth has ever loved me. So far. So who am I? I'm 52. I'm a widow. I'm a single mom who gets called Dad by her kids. We chose Dad because that was the name they always called me. They felt comfortable with it, and I feel comfortable with it. Does it raise eyebrows? Yes, it does. The only place I don't really want them to call me Dad, and they agree with me on this, is when I'm in the ladies' room or when we are in a department store changing area. I just don't want to have complications. They can call me Dawn in those circumstances, and they like to make fun of my name. Dawn. Which, sadly, is how Wendy, my late wife, used to get in digs at me by stressing the difference between my birth name, which is Don, and the way I pronounce my name now as a New Yorker, Dawn, with the W. Lots of people out west say Dawn and Don pretty much the same, Don Don. You know, I chose the name partially because it's such an easy correction from Don to Dawn, or that people call me Don. It's not such a big deal, as opposed to Genevieve or Abigail. And I also picked Dawn because my mother, who passed away last November, who I loved, told me when I was about 7 that had I been born, as she thought, a girl, that was the name she had picked out for me. She put a wig atop my head and wanted to see what I'd look like if I had been born a girl. Here I am. My mother and I, that's another very complicated, long story that we will get to. So let me stop telling you about what we'll get to and just keep on going with what we are going to do. I transitioned, which is the word for when you go from the gender you were assigned at birth to the gender you want to live full-time as. Friend described it, I think Ches Bono came up with this. Sex and sexuality is what's between your legs, and gender is what's between your ears. Another way of phrasing it is, sex is who you want to go to bed with. Gender is who you want to go to bed as. The thing that you need to know about me is, it doesn't really matter what's between my legs. It doesn't really matter what's underneath my top. It doesn't matter what my physicality is. What matters is what's in here. And that's really what did it for Wendy. She was light years ahead of most people in knowing that what's between the ears is really where your gender is and what matters. And once we figured out that all the testosterone in the world isn't going to make me a man, all the Viagra, Cialis, it's not going to make me a man. And honestly, I'm happier. I want to wrap this up because we're coming up on 20 minutes, but I do want to tell you this. I'm not the only one who's like this. There are very few of us. But I've reached out to those who I know and I've met. Most of them online. We may never find out why. But it doesn't matter what people like myself who are transgender, or if intersex is the right label, given some differences in my life. It doesn't matter. We're people. And all we ask is that we be given the same rights that people who are gay were given when the Supreme Court ruled almost a year ago that love is love. All we want is to be able to be loved, to be accepted, to work, to live our lives, to express ourselves, to be able to use the bathroom. I don't know what other people are doing in the bathroom, but I'm peeing and taking care of other business and maybe fixing my makeup, washing my hands and leaving. That's basically all I do in the bathroom. And I've been using bathrooms for, I think almost 51 years. Maybe 50. Half a century. And I've never entertained the idea of anything else except using the bathroom. I don't want people to think I'm some kind of activist, because I'm not. I've been called that, a transgender activist. Probably because I'm the only transgender friend that most of my friends have, that they know of. You see, that's the funny thing. You've probably already peed next to a transgender person. You've probably already worked with one. You've probably already walked past one on the street. You've probably already been served and had some kind of business with a transgender person. We're not trying to change who other people are. If your beliefs are threatened in your mind by me and my existence, then that's something you have to deal with and you have to come to terms with. If you could put yourself in my shoes for one day, by the way, they're size 9, I would expect that you would find that life is so much better when you really know who you are. And I don't know a single transgender person who isn't the most introspective person I know. Being transgender means you have really taken the time to think about who you are, why you are, where you are, and all the ramifications. And it may mean losing friends, losing loved ones, losing family. I'm very blessed. I have most of my family now supporting me, holding me up, holding up my children, who I love more than anything in the world. I'm a mom. Never thought I'd ever say that. I so wanted to be me, but I never wanted to be a mom. But this is the job. It's the job that society demands. I am still called dad, and I still do the dad things, but my kids need a mom. And believe me, we don't call me that. Forever in our hearts will always be only one person as mom. And she is with us in our hearts and in our minds every day. But somebody's got to do that job, and that's me, and it's up to me. So I'm going to cut this off now. It's been great talking to you. Again, email address, dawnennis@gmail.com. Or leave your comments here on YouTube. I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to talking some more about life, about trans, about the news, about why it's such a controversial thing. And I'm not really sure if this is the right forum. Maybe we should do something like Facebook Live or Skype or whatever else they come up with. All I know is that what I really want to do is reach out. I'm somebody who has a different story than the rest of the world. And among transgender people, my story is different there too. But in every way, we're all a little bit different from the norm. I'm just a little bit more different. And what I'm hoping you'll come away with is an understanding that a difference that makes no difference is no difference. I love you all. I love my kids more. And I love myself, which is something I couldn't say a long time ago. So thanks. Send in your questions. And do me a favor. Find a way to love yourself too, no matter who you are. It's great.
I choked back tears today, 'cause I can't bear